orders 115 new buses for Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso woke up to a sight nobody expected. 115 brand new, spotless, government-owned buses lined up and ready for service. These weren't the worn-out, overcrowded vehicles people had reluctantly grown used to. They were modern, uniform, and proudly carrying the emblem of state authority. And the launch didn't come in stages, it was a full-force wave. Overnight, buses were dispatched to main transit hubs and key routes across the city. For residents accustomed to unreliable schedules and unpredictable fares, the change was immediate. Uniformed drivers operated vehicles that ran on strict departure times. In the capital, the difference was visible even to people who didn't board a bus that day. Major intersections suddenly moved more smoothly, without the usual chaos of unregulated minibuses and motorcycle taxis fighting for passengers. For the first time in years, there was an air of coordinated movement. Government officials confirmed this wasn't just about transportation. It was part of President Ibrahim Traoré's wider push to bring urban public transit firmly back under state control. The timing was no accident. Frustration over transport inefficiency had been boiling for months, with social media flooded by videos of commuters crammed into unsafe vehicles, stranded mid-route by breakdowns, or paying inflated fares during rush hours. This launch wasn't meant to quietly coexist with the old system, it was a statement. The state was reclaiming a space it had long ceded to informal operators. And it wasn't doing it halfway. The buses were deployed strategically, on pre-mapped routes connecting major neighborhoods, markets, schools, and government centers. High-density areas where delays and overcrowding were common got priority. In some cases, stops were set up in communities completely ignored by private operators. The public reaction was mixed but curious. Older commuters remembered past government transit efforts that failed due to mismanagement. Younger riders, however, saw something entirely different. A sleek, organized, and modern service that inspired a sense of national pride. Some even compared the buses to those in North African capitals. What most people didn't know was that the government had been preparing for months. After securing the buses, they recruited and trained drivers under strict state supervision. Mechanic teams were assembled, maintenance schedules set, and ticketing systems tested before launch. Security measures, including onboard surveillance, were built in from day one. For President Traoré, this was about more than transportation. It was about proving that the state could directly provide high-quality public services, and proving it in a very visible way. The suddenness of the move also made it clear. This was a restructuring of urban mobility, not just an upgrade. For years, Burkina Faso's urban transport was an unregulated free-for-all. Anyone with a vehicle could operate a route. The state had little control over fares, schedules, or safety. The result was chaos. The first step in this overhaul was dismantling the fragmented licensing system. In its place came a centralized routing authority that decides where every bus goes, when it runs, and how often. Drivers now work directly for a state transport agency with the power to enforce schedules, monitor performance, and remove unsafe operators. Real-time tracking allows instant responses to delays or irregularities. The government is also piloting a standardized ticketing system, with plans for mobile payments to prevent fare manipulation and ensure revenue goes back into the system. Maintenance is now state-controlled, with scheduled servicing to keep buses in top condition from day one until retirement. This level of central oversight marks a decisive shift in power, away from informal networks and into the hands of public planners. But every big reform has ripple effects. Private operators who dominated the informal sector now face direct competition from a well-resourced state service. Many will see incomes drop. Some may adapt and join the system, but others could be pushed out. The government seems prepared for this tension, viewing it as the price of building a reliable public network. The economic impact is already being felt. Hundreds of drivers have formal contracts, salaries, and benefits for the first time. A whole ecosystem of mechanics, depot staff, ticket collectors, and safety inspectors has emerged. Suppliers of spare parts, uniforms, and fuel now have stable demand. And for commuters, reduced fares and shorter travel times mean more disposable income and greater productivity. Still, the transition disrupts thousands of informal jobs. Supporters argue formalizing the sector offers long-term security. Critics warn it could leave many without work. The government will need to balance efficiency gains with strategies to absorb displaced workers, perhaps through training or integration into related sectors. The buses are also redefining safety and inclusivity. They meet modern safety standards with reinforced brakes, fire-resistant interiors, and easy access for the elderly or disabled. Drivers receive training in emergency response, first aid, and passenger relations. A cultural shift as much as a technical one. Onboard monitoring and designated, well-lit bus stops reduce risks for all passengers, especially women traveling alone at night, who now have a safer alternative to unregulated transport. Routes now reach underserved neighborhoods, connecting more citizens to schools, hospitals, and job opportunities. This isn't just about transportation, it's about reshaping the role of the state. For years, essential services were left to market forces, often in the hands of informal operators or foreign companies. President Traoré's administration is reversing that trend, from public transit to agriculture, energy, and industry, placing the state at the center of essential service delivery. By keeping ownership and control of the bus network domestic, Burkina Faso is asserting both sovereignty and capability. Every bus that arrives on time is a reminder to citizens that the government can deliver, and a quiet challenge to the belief that only private companies can run things efficiently. The implications go beyond the city streets. With centralized control, transport routes can be aligned with housing projects, market hubs, and public institutions, shaping urban growth for decades. The system also avoids dependence on foreign contractors, reinforcing the administration's image of independence in an era when infrastructure often comes with strings attached. Whether this bold reform inspires similar projects in other African nations remains to be seen. But in Burkina Faso, the 115 new buses are already more than vehicles. They are a moving symbol of state authority, economic ambition, and a vision for a country where public services are not left to chance, but run with purpose.